Sitting on an airplane is probably one of the least enjoyable parts of your vacation, especially with how noisy it gets. The plane itself is already loud from the engine, then adding crying children and loud talkers. And now, in the midst of the pandemic, some people are wreaking havoc in the air with their unruly behavior. Police are getting involved and hefty fines are being proposed. People were shocked when a flight attendant was seen using duct tape to control a passenger. But this isn't the first time. After a recent video went viral, more videos surfaced. Why is this becoming a phenomenon? Let's find out. Air travel can be a convenient way to get from one place to another, especially if the two places are far away. But when you add difficult people in a confined space with no easy way out if you're in the air, things can get heated fast. This is exactly what happened on August 3rd on a Frontier Airlines flight from Philadelphia to Miami. In a cell phone video first shared by Miami news station WPLG, 22-year-old Maxwell Perry is shown with his mask under his chin, yelling at flight attendants about his family's net worth.
My parents are worth $2 million goddamn dollars.
The video also showed Maxwell cursing out the flight attendants.
You guys suck.
And showed him physically assaulting a male flight attendant. A male crew member is then shown duct taping Maxwell to a seat to restrain him for the rest of the flight. According to the arrest report from the Miami-Dade Police Department, Maxwell ordered 2 alcoholic drinks from a female flight attendant and allegedly brushed the cup against the flight attendant's backside in an inappropriate way. The flight attendant allegedly told him, "Don't touch me." Maxwell allegedly spilled the drink on himself, went to the lavatory, and emerged shirtless. According to police, the flight attendant helped him get a new shirt from his carry-on bag. Maxwell then walked around the cabin for about 15 minutes. Around this time, he allegedly inappropriately touched the chest of a different female flight attendant who told him not to touch her. He then allegedly came up behind both female flight attendants and inappropriately touched the chest again. According to the arrest report, one of the flight attendants asked a male flight attendant to watch Maxwell for the rest of the flight. Police said the male flight attendant asked Maxwell to calm down, but Maxwell hit the flight attendant, as shown in the video. The flight crew then restrained Maxwell by taping him to the seat and further restraining him with a seatbelt extender for the rest of the flight. When the flight arrived in Miami, local police arrested him on 3 counts of battery. FBI agents who responded at the scene declined to press federal felony charges. Sam Sweeney, a transportation reporter for ABC, tweeted the video and it quickly went viral. Shortly after the video went viral, Frontier released a statement. During a flight from Philadelphia to Miami on July 31st, a passenger made inappropriate physical contact with a flight attendant and subsequently physically assaulted another flight attendant. As a result, the passenger needed to be restrained until the flight landed in Miami and law enforcement arrived. Unfortunately, the proper policies for restraining a passenger were not followed. As a result, the flight attendants involved have been suspended pending further investigation. Many people were outraged to hear the flight crew had been suspended. That Frontier crew should get a raise, not be suspended. Why have the crew been suspended? They have a duty to protect themselves and other passengers. Shame on Frontier for suspending the crew. They saved everyone on board from further disaster. Planes need to be equipped with proper restraints. The penalty for failing to provide adequate resources to the flight attendants should be solely on Frontier. One person explained what might have happened to the crew. Suspended is an inappropriate word. Anytime there's an incident, someone dying on board, a fight, etc., the whole crew gets removed from their schedule to recover emotionally, and while the whole thing is investigated, takes a week to 10 days, they still get paid. But some people said the crew overreacted. Not to defend the a-hole, but the problem seems to be taping him to the seat. If there was a situation that required evacuation and he wasn't able to get out, there would be hell to pay for all of them. He was just abusive. Passengers were having a laugh. He was no threat. Just ignore him until landing and arrest him. The punches started when someone was trying to nab him down. Self-defense by Barry. Overreaction by crew. It was dangerous to have physical scuffle in flight. It looks like they duct taped his mouth. That's not okay. I get the impulse, but the potential for oxygen deprivation is real. And others made fun of Maxwell. Narrator, his parents are no longer worth $2 million. His parents are worth $2 mil, then why is he flying Frontier? The Association of Flight Attendants, the union that represents Frontier's flight attendants, released a statement supporting the flight crew and condemning Frontier. Union President Sarah Nelson said, "Flight attendants have faced an onslaught of disruptions on our flights this year. The situation on Frontier this weekend is one of the worst examples. A drunk and irate passenger verbally, physically, and SA'd multiple members of the crew. When he refused to comply after multiple attempts to de-escalate, the crew was forced to restrain the passenger with the tools available to them on board. We are supporting the crew. Management suspended the crew as a knee-jerk reaction to a short video clip that did not show the full incident. Management should be supporting the crew at this time, not suspending them. We will be fighting this with every contractual and legal tool available, but we would hope there would be no need for that as management comes to their senses and supports the people on the front line charged with keeping all passengers safe. As noted in our unruly passenger survey, if this is not immediately corrected, flight attendants may feel unsafe to come to work. Management has a legal duty to maintain a safe work environment for employees. However, after the backlash their first statement received, Frontier released an updated statement. During a flight from Philadelphia to Miami on July 31st, a passenger made inappropriate physical contact with 2 flight attendants and subsequently physically assaulted another flight attendant. As a result, the passenger needed to be restrained until the flight landed in Miami and law enforcement arrived. Frontier Airlines maintains the utmost value, respect, concern, and support for all of our flight attendants, including those who were on this flight. We are supporting the needs of those team members and are working with law enforcement to fully support the prosecution of the passenger involved. The in-flight crew member's current paid leave status is in line with an event of this nature, pending an investigation. According to Sam Sweeney, Frontier said their first statement was rushed but did not clarify if the flight crew was initially suspended. This is not the first time an unruly passenger had to be restrained with duct tape. On July 6th, during an American Airlines flight from Dallas-Fort Worth to Charlotte, a woman was heard saying to the man sitting beside her that she didn't want the plane to fly up anymore, according to Elizabeth Leclerc, a passenger sitting in front of her. Elizabeth further explained what happened to the Washington Post. She just seemed off and very odd. She started getting more and more agitated and very loud, and the man sitting next to her, along with the flight attendants, kindly tried to console her and calm her, but nothing worked. Then, the woman allegedly ran to the plane door and tried to open it mid-flight. At that point, flight attendants tackled the woman and restrained her wrists and ankles with duct tape and zip ties, according to Elizabeth. The woman was restrained in a crew area where she allegedly became more erratic and violent, allegedly kicking and cursing. When the plane landed, TikTok user LOLAri took a video of the woman restrained in a seat near the front of the plane with duct tape over her mouth while screaming at passengers. A local law enforcement officer and medical personnel were also waiting by the front of the plane while the rest of the passengers deplaned. The video quickly went viral on TikTok, getting over 4 million views. However, the video and a follow-up video explaining what happened have since been removed. In a statement, American Airlines said, while in flight from Dallas-Fort Worth to Charlotte on July 6th, the crew on board American Airlines Flight 1774 reported a potential security concern after a customer attempted to open the forward boarding door and physically assaulted and caused injury to a flight attendant. For the safety and security of other customers and our crew, the individual was restrained until the flight landed at Charlotte and could be met by law enforcement and emergency personnel. American Airlines also said the woman would not be allowed to fly with their airline pending an investigation. And on August 11th, a 13-year-old boy appeared to have been duct taped to his seat by flight attendants on an American Airlines flight from Maui to Los Angeles. Witnesses told CBS Los Angeles the boy tried to kick out the window next to his seat and became physical with his mother about an hour into the flight. One passenger recorded the incident and shared the video with CBS Los Angeles. He said the physical altercations may have been a sign of a developmental disability. An unidentified passenger said, "It was enough to make me concerned for my family. And actually, I feel bad for the airlines because they have to be really delicate." The flight was diverted to Honolulu, and passengers were put on other flights or given accommodations. According to a statement from American Airlines, the boy was restrained using flex cuffs and not duct tape. He was escorted off the flight upon landing. No one was injured and no arrests were made. With these high-profile incidents, people have been wondering, why did flight attendants use duct tape to restrain unruly passengers? Some flight attendants told Insider that duct tape can keep unruly passengers from hurting other passengers in a pinch, but duct taping passengers to their seats can interfere with a potential emergency evacuation. One of the flight attendants interviewed by Insider said they were trained to use verbal de-escalation tactics. However, when a passenger poses a physical threat to other people on board, flight attendants are trained to use restraints like tape and zip ties. But the duct tape incidents aren't the only instances of unruly passengers on flights in the past year. According According to Insider, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has investigated 600 reports of unruly passengers in 2021, almost double the number of reports in 2019 and 2020 combined. Here are just some of the incidents that have taken place over the past year. In a report released on May 5th, the FAA described several incidents involving passengers refusing to wear masks. A man on a JetBlue flight traveling from the Dominican Republic to New York refused to wear a mask, threw food and an empty liquor bottle on the plane, screamed vulgar language, and hit a flight attendant in the arm. A man on a Southwest Airlines flight that was about to fly from Chicago to Sacramento refused to wear a mask, called flight attendants who ordered him off the plane pathetic, and hit a crew member with his luggage as he exited the plane. An Alaska Airlines passenger intending to fly from Bozeman, Montana to Seattle refused repeated requests to wear a mask, causing the plane to return to the gate. On May 23rd, a woman flying on a Southwest Airlines flight from Sacramento to San Diego allegedly punched a flight attendant in the face. The passenger was arrested and charged with felony battery. Southwest later banned her from future travel on the airline. On May 24th, a passenger on a JetBlue flight was accused of throwing his carry-on luggage, lying in the aisle and refusing to get up, and grabbing a female flight attendant by her ankles and sticking his head up her skirt. On June 25th, a man who was under the influence of methamphetamine was flying from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City when he tried to break into the cockpit of the plane. He then opened the emergency exit door and jumped from the side of the plane, breaking his right leg on the tarmac. On July 7th, a man claimed to smell a gas leak, accused another passenger of storing explosive parts in her socks, and accused a flight attendant of carrying explosive components in his bag, and tried to wrestle the bag away from the flight attendant. 2 air marshals tried to calm the man, but the man charged down the aisle and had to be restrained. In the final hour of the flight, the captain instructed all passengers to put their hands on their heads due to a security threat. He was later arrested on a federal charge of interfering with flight crew members and attendants. If convicted, he can face up to 20 years in prison. On July 17th, a passenger on a flight from Colombia to Los Angeles tried to open the airplane door 30 minutes into the flight. The captain and flight attendants gave another passenger permission to put the disruptive man in a chokehold to restrain him. As you can see, there are many cases of unruly passengers in 2021 alone, and the FAA seems to be cracking down. In March, the FAA extended the zero-tolerance policy the agency introduced in January. FAA Administrator Steve Dixon said in a statement, "The policy directs our safety inspectors and attorneys to take strong enforcement action against any passenger who disrupts or threatens the safety of a flight, with penalties ranging from fines to jail time. The number of cases we're seeing is still far too high, and it tells us urgent action continues to be required. The policy will continue to be in effect as long as mask mandates remain in effect." In May, the FAA released a statement announcing civil penalties against 5 unruly passengers who allegedly interfered with and, in 2 cases, flight attendants. One passenger, who refused to cover his nose with his mask and threw a provided mask on the ground, had a $9,000 fine proposed. Another passenger, who refused to wear a mask, was asked to leave, refused, and became combative with flight attendants, had a $10,500 fine proposed. 3 passengers had $15,000 fines proposed. One woman, who was sitting in the main cabin, was given first-class items from another passenger. A flight attendant noticed these items and took them back to first class. The woman shouted obscenities, followed the flight attendant, and hit him with her body, nearly pushing him into the lavatory. A man drank his own alcohol, despite being told twice it was prohibited. He also spoke on his cell phone, which is not allowed. He then repeatedly yelled at a flight attendant who told him to stop. A passenger allegedly pushed a flight attendant who walked down the aisle to check who was wearing a mask on the flight. In June, the FAA said it had received over 3,000 reports of unruly passenger behavior in 2021, and flight attendants are overwhelmed by the volume of incidents. Paul Hartshorn, the spokesperson for the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, said, "It's out of control. It's really coming to the point where we have to defend ourselves." Sarah Nelson from the Association of Flight Attendants added, "Even if it doesn't rise to the level of a physical altercation, just the constant bickering and name-calling and disrespect, that wears away at people." Flight attendants and their representatives have pushed government officials to do more to combat the rise in passenger altercations. Airlines for America, which represents most of the large U.S. airlines, and several labor groups, urged Attorney General Merrick Garland to commit the Justice Department to full prosecution of disruptive passengers. At a hearing, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was asked about what the agency is doing to fight back against unruly unruly passengers. Mayorkas said, "We also have prepared federal air marshals to address any act of violence that they themselves observe while on flights. Importantly, we are working with law enforcement to ensure that these acts are met with the full force of federal law. These individuals who commit these heinous acts are prosecuted to the full extent of the law." Both Sarah Nelson and Paul Hartshorn agree intoxicated passengers should be kept off flights. After flight attendant unions pressured airlines, Southwest Airlines and American Airlines held off on their plans to resume alcohol sales. The FAA also continues to announce new proposed fines for unruly passengers, many of which are thousands of dollars. Hopefully, severe consequences will make passengers think twice before putting other people at risk on flights. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments below.